So as you probably know by now, we don't only build CityEngine here in Zurich, we build lots of other things too. And for those of you that follow us on Instagram, by the way, follow us on our other social media channels. For those of you who follow us on Instagram, you might have seen that recently we celebrated some kind of release. So with regards to that, I'm happy to be talking to Javier Gutierrez here today, who is the product engineer lead for the web team. So Javi, hi.
Hi.
Maybe just quickly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So my name is Javier Gutierrez. I'm originally from a small town near Barcelona. I studied telecommunications there, and then I started Esri, it's almost now 10 years ago, in California. I was a software developer in the aeronautical team. I was making a system for aeronautical chart generation on the server. And 5 years ago, more or less, I moved to Zurich, and here I started as a product engineer. And my first task was actually working on the CityEngine web viewer as a developer. I was working on the play button, on the search, on the comments, so that was really fun. And today I'm, as a product engineer leading the web team, I'm more of interacting with product management, getting requirements, prioritizing them, organizing releases, and helping the team achieve really good quality for each release.
And so speaking of release, so tell us, what exactly have you just released? And what are the main stories for this release?
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this release. It was a great release. For the first time, we can say that we support mobile devices on 3D on the web. So this is very exciting because a lot of you asked for this feature. And we've worked really hard on this. We've made really a lot of performance improvements, memory control improvements. So this is a great release. But not only because of mobile support, but also because this great feature called edge rendering.
Yep.
Edge rendering is really cool. I think you probably all have seen the videos already. It allows buildings to display in a much nicer way, to be able to see all the geometry details, even at a distance, and with great contrast. So that's really cool. And another good feature is the 3D area measurement. It allows people to calculate the areas of the ground, also the areas of the facades of the buildings or the roof structures.
And so are there any other interactive analysis tools planned for the future?
Yes, actually we're working right now in some research in what we call slice tool. This is a really cool tool to be able to cut through different surfaces and see inside buildings or underground. So that's research going on. It's just starting, but that's something that we want to build for the future. And actually another one that we've just released in December was the measurement tool for line distance in 3D, which it's also very well received.
Well, that sounds awesome to me. I'm sure you'll like it as well. So, because this is the CityEngine channel, I obviously have some CityEngine-ish related questions. And I've had a lot of CityEngine friends ask us why we no longer support the CityEngine web viewer. As you mentioned, you're already part of essentially creating it, and so the code's obviously perfect.
Yes.
So that can't be why we no longer maintain it. So why don't we, and what should our users use instead?
That's a very good question. We actually get that question often, and you can still use the CityEngine web viewer. It's still working, and we've been fixing some bugs, but we haven't had enough resources to really put in new features in the tool. Instead, we've started this 3D across the platform project that allows people to create scenes on demand and mash up different layers. And that's what you should do today. With CityEngine, you can export layers as scene layer packages and uploading them to ArcGIS Online or to Enterprise and loading them back in the scene viewer. In the scene viewer, you can combine it with other data and restyle it, and it's not so static as the CityEngine web viewer was. We're aware that some of the cool features that I and other people built are still missing, like the play button, the comments, and a few other things. And we're gonna work over time to bring those features into the scene viewer. Another big advantage of the new model exporting an SDK is that you can also bring this into other tools in the platform. You can bring them into Pro or into ArcGIS Earth if you're not working on the web.
Okay, so I can use the scene viewer if I want to look at my exported CityEngine models online, but is there any other ways to like customize, I guess, the web experience?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So here in the web team in Zurich, we actually built two products, not only the scene viewer, but also the ArcGIS API for JavaScript. You can use the API for JavaScript to create your custom web applications that load the same scene layers, that load the same data, and then create your own widgets, the Play widget or any other widget that you're missing with the JSAPI. We have a SDK with a lot of documentation on how to get about JavaScript and the different tools that we support.
Okay, so are there any other JSAPI features planned for the future?
Many, yeah. I mean, where would I start? But actually, before we go into the future, I would like to talk about one of the past ones that we released. In the JSAPI, we also have different releases as the scene viewer.
Yeah.
We do release the same one, so the JSAPI also supports mobile, also supports edge rendering, and it actually has a few more options than in the scene viewer. And it also supports 3D area and 3D distance measurement. But a really cool feature for developers is the Mesh Geometry API. This is a new extension point. Before, you could extend the API if you can write WebGL code with shaders and very complex logic. Now with this geometry API, you can add any arbitrary geometry on the client side to the app. Name it low poly terrain, like we have a sample in the API, or snowmans, that's another sample in the API. You can generate any arbitrary geometry. So that's a really cool extension point for getting a little bit down in the weeds. Yeah, and in terms of new features, like I said, many things. And talking about many, the biggest feature that we're working on right now is reducing or removing the feature number limitation that we have in the API. Currently, you cannot add any layers, feature layers that have more than 2,000 features, but we are working very hard to remove that limitation and allow you to add any number of features to the scenes. And this requires a lot of performance improvements, different ways of requesting the data, different ways of rendering the data, different 3D models. If you use symbols in your to symbolize your points in 3D, like trees or street signs and so on, we're working with companies to create different levels of details of these symbols. So lots of work going on to this many features project.
Great. Well, it certainly sounds like you guys are going to be busy for a little while still. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Let us know what you think of everything that Javi's mentioned today. Let us know if you have any other suggestions that maybe you want to know more about, or you'd like to request a specific feature or something. Yeah, make sure you let us know. So thanks a lot for tuning in again, and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.